hello to one another. And as a reminder, this webinar is being recorded so that we can have it on file, and it will also be live streamed to YouTube. So to those of you who are watching live on YouTube, or if you're watching our broadcast after the fact, welcome to all of you as well. We're very excited to have you all here for our August volunteer gathering. And I believe that has covered everything. So again, if you have any questions, please feel free to use the chat or the Q&A if the chat's not working. And for now, I will pass it over to Allison to get us started.
Hey, welcome. So glad to see everyone virtually. We're going to start with our land acknowledgement. Rancho Los Cerritos is located on the unceded ancestral lands of the Gabrielino Tonga people, who are the past, present, and future caretakers of the Los Angeles Basin in Southern Channel Islands. We honor and extend our respects to the many indigenous people who call these lands home. As we know, tonight's featured speaker is Marie, who will be speaking about dragonflies at Rancho Los Cerritos. And then following Marie's presentation, you'll hear about a new exhibition that's opening in the library, plus a few other updates about what's been happening at RLC this summer and what will be happening here in September. But first, a few important site updates. Construction, I'm looking back to advance forward. For all of you that have been to the site, you know it's underway. This is our stormwater recapture project. It'll allow us to retain and reuse runoff water. We'll be improving our water collection from 40% on site to about 95% on site. As most of you know, we were closed for the first few weeks in July, and that was to drop the cistern in. And this is one time I like to say it was unimportant, no obstacles. It was great. It was the most successful cistern drop I've ever seen. Granted, it's the only one I've ever seen, but I'm glad it was my first and it went without a hitch. You'll also notice that the area in front of the visitor center has been torn up. That will be replaced with permeable pavers, which should be going in the next few weeks. And also the soil cement road is gone, and that will be replaced with permeable concrete. Also beginning to think about what we want to do with STEAM curriculum, keeping the A in STEM, so we are STEAM. So it's an exciting project. You've got to come out to the site and see it now, because trust me, once it's done, you almost won't know it even happened. But that's a good thing. We don't want people to see it, but we will be collecting water. So we're super excited. And it is slated, fingers crossed, to be done by September 24th, which, if you haven't heard, is the Rancho Los Cerritos 2022 Gala, Sharing Stories of Home. September 24th, 5 to 9. It'll start outside the visitor center with our silent auction. We will also have the exhibition open, and many of the exhibit participants will be there to talk with people who are attending, and they'll get to know the participants as well. Then people will walk through the orchard and see an art installation that we're working on now. They'll end up in the backyard for our dinner, which of course we have the dinner, the live auction, the Fund and Need live ask, and a really unique piece of entertainment this year. We brought a professor on from Cal State Long Beach, Dr. Tony, who is writing a corrido, or a ballad, and it will be about the tenant history period and connecting it with the current exhibit. So it's really about how our past history informs our current history and how we plan for our future history. We haven't done it before, but Dr. Tony is an amazing corrido writer. She's also a guitarist and will be performing it. And it should be a very compelling and moving story or ballad about the tenant period history. Of course, the backyard will be lit to its absolute fullest. It'll look gorgeous. We still do have tickets available and some table sponsorships. We are filling up fast. So if you are interested in attending, please let Laura, Alana, Megan, or myself know. Should be a lot of fun. And then, of course, a big thank you to our 2 summer interns who have worked so hard this summer and are both finishing up this month. I want to commend both Grace and Sarah on a job amazingly well done. thank you both, and we're looking forward to hearing about your projects later on tonight. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Megan.
Not sure if that repeated. I want to introduce Marie Barnidge-McIntyre tonight. You all know her as our horticulturalist who works very hard to keep our historic gardens looking so beautiful, being so inviting, and actually being incredibly healthy. She works with gardening volunteers and the Azteca crew to ensure that the plants themselves thrive. She works with garden docents to enable I'm not sure I'm getting feedback, to enable that everyone can share the stories of the garden. And she works with lots of others to make sure that the birds are recognized, that City Nature Challenge's bugs are recognized, and so forth. Marie once told me that when she first started at the rancho, there were no earthworms. That was a sign of ill health, of course. And she's worked hard ever since then to make sure that our gardens are beautiful, welcoming, and healthy. Marie, go ahead and take it away.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us today. I'm going to share my screen. And something Megan asked me to let you guys know is that the dragonflies that we will really focus on tonight are dragonflies you could potentially see at the rancho. Now, here's a proviso: not every single photograph of the dragonflies was taken at the rancho. And I don't know that that will be very important to you, but it is a little bit of a detail that maybe you'll enjoy knowing. Okay. The oldest predecessor of the dragonfly is the griffinfly. This dragonfly fossil dates back to the Carboniferous period, 350 million years ago, and had a wingspan of 30 inches. They were not the only giant insects at the time, and the working hypothesis is that gigantism was due to the elevated oxygen levels. In fact, there was twice the amount of oxygen in the air then as we have today. This would have made flying less stressful, and flying vertebrates hadn't evolved yet, so there were no airborne predators. It was these giant dragonflies that ruled the skies. This group went extinct in the Triassic period when dinosaurs and gliding reptiles appeared in the landscape. There were two other dragonfly subspecies that have been also discovered, only slightly smaller, but they were all within the same period. Geologically soon after, about 251 million years ago, the Great Dying occurred. This was Earth's massive extinction event. We know that there were elevated temperatures. Carbon dioxide rose to 2,000 parts per million. Ocean oxygen levels dropped and acidity rose. It was known as the largest mass extinction of insects, not to mention other biological families. This occurred with a series of pulses and lasted 5 to 10 million years. Arthropod is a Greek word for a jointed leg, and they refer to the invertebrates that include spiders, crustaceans, centipedes, and other insects. They all had segmented bodies, jointed appendages, compound or median eyes, an external skeleton. Now, this exoskeleton can be leathery like a caterpillar, hard chitin like a lobster, or something in between, like a grasshopper. Oxygen is brought directly in through tubes in the exoskeleton and goes directly to their cells. The largest class of invertebrates, representing 90% of the entire animal kingdom, is Insecta. They have the following body parts: 3 pairs of legs, 2 pair usually of wings, a pair of compound eyes, 1 pair of antennae, usually, a segmented body, including a head, thorax, and abdomen. Those creatures that survive, adapted, and soft-bodied dragonflies are included in that. Dragonflies fall into a class called Odonta. Now, Odonta is also a Greek word referring to toothed one. And this includes dragonflies and damselflies. Damselflies showed up about 250 million years ago. It's interesting to note that only adults have ever been found fossilized, and it has been posited that their life cycles changed to adapt to an aquatic habitat. Several dragonflies coexisted, and while many are extinct today, at least 3 members of the group survive today with 5,000 species identified. A lot of dragonflies. The life cycle of these creatures is considered incomplete metamorphosis. This means there is no pupa. It starts with eggs laid by the adult female, and methods depend upon the species. But they're usually in or near water. Dragonfly eggs are only 0.05 millimeters in diameter. And damselfly eggs are cylindrical, meaning that they're and up to 1.1 millimeters. They're 0.1 millimeters long. When the eggs hatch, the nymphs, which is what you call a larva of a dragonfly or damselfly, are fully aquatic, living amongst the habitat or biome found in slow-moving or even stagnant water. Dragonfly nymphs are short, squat, with a pebbled texture. They're equipped with internal gills that suck in water when they expand their body. As it expands the water flows through the internal gills. When they contract their body, the spent water is ejected using jet propulsion that literally thrusts the insect forward, which is a great escape mechanism. The damselflies are more svelte and delicate looking and have 3 fin-like exterior gills at the end of their abdomen. Depending upon the species, they have up to 6 to 30 molts over a period of maybe 3 months to sometimes over a year. They both have compound eyes, and all are carnivorous, preying on anything smaller than them: fish, tadpoles, other aquatic insects, and of course, the larvae and adults of mosquitoes. To catch the prey, the nymph's lower jaw has the ability to extend forward and lying in wait in the muck when a tasty tidbit swims past. The sharp-toothed lower jaw, also equipped with hooks, snaps out and snares the unsuspecting swimmer and retracts for consumption. As the nymphs grow, they molt, shedding their exoskeleton, as it cannot expand to adapt to their growing physique. When it is time to emerge from the water for their final molt, they must also start to breathe air. Perching on a twig, plant, or other vertical surface, the dragonfly will slowly emerge. This is hard work, as the dragonfly must pump bodily fluids throughout the now significantly larger body, and one with wings as well. It can take 2 hours for the full emergence, then a couple more hours for the wings to harden. But once they do, they will fly away, leaving the last exoskeleton behind. Now, airborne, the adults' habits depend upon their species. Some perch, while others spend most of the daylight airborne in a habit called hawking. They all have large compound eyes. Now, compound means that each eye is composed of multiple optical units. In the case of dragonflies, each one of their eyes has between 28 to 30,000 units, and they are capable of 360-degree field of vision. They also have 3 simple eyes with powerful receptors, and this gives them the ability to see in the dark. Now, dragonflies need warmth to fly, but I have often encountered them flying before dawn on warm mornings. We haven't had any of them lately. This not only makes it easier to see their prey, but as they no longer rule the skies themselves, they have to be on the lookout for predators to protect themselves. Scientists have determined that there is so much visual data taken into the dragonfly's brain that it literally occupies 80% of the brain function. Their eyes are so large, they all but cover the head. Damselflies are located on the side of the head. They do have antennae, but they're really small, not something you're going to notice. An adult dragonfly's jaw still has the ability to thrust forward to hook prey, snapping back into place. And they are not picky about what they're going to eat. It can be a swarm of, or a keck of gnats or mosquitoes, other small flying insects, and you can see multiple dragonflies hunting together as long as it is unclaimed territory. The thorax comes after the head and supports 6 barbed legs that allow it to perch and occasionally help it grab its prey. But you won't see them going for a stroll, as these legs were not designed for walking. And why should they, as the top of the thorax has 2 sets of wings? They are transparent, making it easy to spy the venation. And these veins add strength while still maintaining flexibility, as well as have pleats that can be used to create lift. Each species has a different venation pattern, and there are 77 species of Odonta just in Southern California. The front wings tend slightly smaller, with a notch that you can see in some of these pictures in the leading edge, and a slight size difference between the hind and forward wing actually allows faster speed for the dragonfly. They can get up to 35 miles an hour. The wings are connected by strong muscles that control the beats, as well as allow each wing to move independently. This is something of an aerodynamic dream machine, capable of incredible agility, turning, stopping, hovering, and even flying sideways and backwards. They cannot fold, so at rest, the wings will be perpendicular to the body. This is a blurry photograph, but I love the fact that you can see all the different angles of the wings. The abdomen has 10 or more segments, and it is flexible. The male has appendages called claspers, used to cling to the female during copulation. Some species will fly clasped together, some do not. After mating, the female will lay her eggs, and males will stake out the territory and patrol it, warning off other lotharios that might be looking for females. Dragonflies are found on every continent, with the exception of Antarctica. With that kind of dispersal and their high visibility, it is understandable that they are associated with multiple legends. A village, long terrorized by a dragon, had run out of sacrificial sheep, so the villagers started offering up their children. Along came a brave Turkish soldier named George. Horrified by what he saw unfolding before him, he offered to ride his horse into battle against the creature. With the horse kicking, stomping, and distracting the dragon, George, wielding his sword, successfully killed it. Eventually, the venerable George was canonized as a saint, but that is a different tale. However, his success annoyed the devil, who no doubt had created the situation to begin with. In a fit of pique, the devil changed the horse into a flying insect and called it the devil's horse. This legend spread, and when told in Romania, the word drac means both dragon and devil. When translated into English, it got changed to dragonfly. Not only did the English change the name, but they also spread the fear that the dragonfly, still associated with the devil, would steal the breath from anyone weak or injured that was near the water where they flew. So for years, the fearful of Great Britain did their best to wipe out the dragonfly population. The ones known as darners were so called as they thought the long, narrow abdomen resembled a darning needle. That led to a myth that they could sew up your lips if you told a lie, or your ears if you sought out gossip. Another name is the devil's darning needle or horse stinger. In the Hopi and Pueblo tradition, a small village was hit with trouble, so the villagers decided to search for a better area to settle. Somehow, a young brother and sister were left behind. To calm his sister, the boy took dried grass and debris from the failed corn crop and fashioned an insect doll for his distraught sister. The corn bean came to life and taught them how to please the gods. But the girl felt ill, so the corn bean took flight, seeking out the gods, the corn maidens, to come and heal her. The children were so much loved by the gods and were told that they would become great leaders and the land would once again become verdant and fertile. The corn spirit, being the only one of its kind, was lonely and asked the brother to make him a companion. The boy made a second, and it too came to life. The corn spirit asked the boy to call both of them and their offspring dragonfly. The boy told him, "I will paint your form on sacred themes to symbolize spring rains and all that benefits from them. Your companion I will paint as a symbol of summer and the summer rains." The black, white, and red dragonflies arrive with the blooming of the corn, followed by his companion, the green dragonfly, later in the season. They are honored and considered harbingers of life-giving spring and summer rains, and killing a dragonfly is taboo. They are not the only indigenous people in our continent that praised the dragonfly. The Navajo Nation, the dragonfly symbolized pure water. And I have to tell you, dragonflies are more sensitive to pollutants and poisons than damselflies, but they are both strong indicators of a healthy ecosystem. When you consider how many mosquitoes and midges and flies they consume, they are also keeping the airspace above them in balance. Damselflies have three main groups and are the first to appear in spring. They include dancers and bluets, and they actually tolerate cold better than their larger kin. Forktails are the only ones that I've photographed at the rancho, and they're only about an inch long. Not strong flyers, they love congested ponds, as tiny insects will gather to crawl across the duckweed or lily pads, and the forktail can easily pick them off. Oops, sorry. The males are far easier to identify than the females. And then this is the male, and you see the arrow pointing, there's 4 blue dots on its thorax, and that lets us identify which one it is. The blue-eyed darner are plentiful on the western half of the country. The males have chalk blue eyes that earned them their moniker. The black thorax has 2 blue stripes on top, as well as 2 short blue dashes on the side. Their abdomen is comprised of blue and black bands with small white triangles and brown circles. The females are polymorphic. That means that some females present as duller versions in yellows and greens, while the andromorph version presents more male, much like the male coloration. These are about 2 inches long with a wingspan of 4 inches, and they tend to be fairly clear. The mating ritual has the female laying her eggs on vegetation, and then she joins her mate in flight to retrieve the sperm packet he has placed on his abdomen. Once she collects the sperm, she fertilizes the eggs, and then she moves them into the water. The male will defend the eggs he fertilized from other males interested in interrupting the process. The common green darner measures out at over 2.5 inches, and they too start with clear wings, which span over 3 inches. With age, the wings become more amber, especially the females. Both genders have a plain green thorax, and the mature males will have a purple-blue abdomen with a black stripe. However, when it's cold, it might be so dark you can't see the purple stripe. Most immature males and females have a rusty abdomen, yet females have been found exhibiting the color of mature males as well. If you can get a look at their face, they have a black bull's eye, which is actually called a frons, marking in front of their eyes. They have their eyes and then the frons. Males patrol attractive breeding grounds for females. Once a mate is found, the copulation occurs away from the breeding site. Then they return together in tandem, the only darner that practices tandem ovipositing. Other males will do their best to disturb this by trying to knock the male off the female as she deposits her eggs on floating stems. With their greater size, they are capable of preying upon larger insects, taking on wasps, flies, butterflies, and other dragonflies. Strong flyers, they hang out in many habitats, and those in the northern parts of the Americas migrate south to Texas and beyond in the winter. This migration requires 3 generations to complete. Starting in the southern range, the individual adults will head north, while the second generation emerges in the northern climates late spring or early summer before heading south, traveling 7 to 87 miles per day. This journey will take weeks. Possibly because they are moving south due to colder temperatures, they travel in rivers of dragonflies and are highly visible to both people and falcons and kestrels who find them tasty. The third generation occurs in the south again. This one does not migrate. It produces the next generation that will repeat the cycle that's just been finished. That said, there are some naiads or nymphs that develop slower, and sometimes they'll take up to a year instead of the 3 to 5 months that normally occurs. These slower developing nymphs become resident and never migrate. Science hasn't quite determined why that is, and they're thinking it may be genetic. Skimmers include dashers and saddlebags. This is a blue dasher. They have countrywide distribution and get 1.5 inches long. The males have metallic green eyes, a blue-brown thorax with yellow stripes, and a vivid blue abdomen. With age, and as the summer sun heats up, they will become a chalky. It's almost as if they develop sunscreen to help reflect the hot summer sun. So usually the male will do this, but sometimes the female as well. A female, instead of green, will have red eyes, and the thorax will be brown with, again, double yellow slashes. Both have a white face and clear wings in the warm climates like California, but develop a darker amber wing patch in cool climates. Why do they do that? This is an aid in thermoregulation. Remember, they can only fly if it's warm enough, so they have to heat up their body to be able to fly. The tip of the abdomen often turns black, while our local ones sometimes never turn black, possibly because it's warm enough. Rather than hawking, a dasher perches and waits for small flying insects to approach the roost. As they fly past, they dash out to grab it. They will shift perches regularly and defend them from any other dragonflies aggressively. One study showed that they could eat 10% of their body weight daily. That is a lot of mosquitoes. The blue dasher's territory has been creeping north, and it's very likely due to climate change. Saddlebags are moderately large, and there are 7 species in North America. These are recognizable by the dark spots on their hind wings right next to the abdomen. Now, since the rest of the wings are clear, the spots actually appear to bulge from the abdomen, which is how they got the name saddlebags. The body length is shorter than the wingspan, but the saddlebags will be the feature that gets them sorted. These are mostly seen in flight as they are hawkers, and it is rare that I find them at rest. Mind you, looking at the coloration, even if they were at rest, I would probably overlook them. Some saddlebags migrate and some do not. The neon skimmer is by far the most visible, not just for its size of 2 to 3 inches, but for the bright red face and red to orange thorax and abdomen of the male. The male's wings have an amber shadow at the base of each wing, and the vein at the top of the wing is also bright orange. The female is a rusty hue and tend to have clearer wings. Skimmers are fast, strong, and very aggressive flyers. The male will both perch and patrol to observe his territory, looking for food and, of course, potential mates. Anything trespassing needs to be driven off. Seeing a female, he will approach her and inflate his abdomen. If the female flies off, he does not take no for an answer, but he goes in hot pursuit. When they mate, it's usually on a sturdy twig, but occasionally in midair. The female then lays her eggs individually in the water. Oops. No, why aren't you going? My video isn't working. Well, I had a video showing that the female laying eggs. When she lays them in the water, the eggs will sink to the bottom, and predation is high with everything that's living in the water. To distract the predators, she will fling a drop of water away from her, and when the droplet hits the water, the pond surface, it distracts the predators in the water, giving her eggs a brief reprieve. Another reddish dragonfly is the highly variable 1.5-inch variegated meadowhawk. Look for a dark outline around the creamy spots on the side of the abdomen. If you get a good look, you may find the 2 yellow dots on the thorax. The abilities of these gifted aerialists have been studied for drone development since the 1970s. Unlike an airplane with fixed wings, the 4 wings are independent, and the dragonfly, rather than depending upon lift, harnesses drag to support its weight. A dragonfly has a spatial awareness that allows itself to right itself when it's upside down. Scientists studying dragonfly brains determined that dragonflies practice selective attention. Before this, they thought that ability stopped with primates. Dragonflies can select one target out of multiple, and they get their prey 97% of the time in both pursuit and interception. Keeping the prey in sight, the dragonfly does not just, I'm looking at the second part of the slide here, does not just adjust its vision to the prey movement, but adjust its whole body, which leads it to being a highly obvious successful predator. When next you spy a dragonfly, be it hiding in plain sight, like this one, there really is a dragonfly there, or showing off loud and proud, I hope that this overview gives you a richer appreciation for these ancient and beneficial invertebrates. That's the end.
Thank you so much, Marie. Wow, what an amazing amount of information.
As normal.
Do you want to stop sharing your screen, or do you want to keep it up?
No,
There's a question from Laura Breen. Are they mostly by the pond at the rancho?
It's really interesting. The neon skimmers, the bright orange ones, you can almost always see at the pond. However, I have also found them in the private garden and a couple other places. The meadowhawks love in front of the visitor center. And it's a great big open space, and we often do get kecks. That picture of the kecks of gnats, happen to be male gnats, was taken in front of the visitor center. And often, I'm sure that many of you who wander through that area sometimes have to sort of do this as the insects are swarming. So the variegated meadowhawks, they love that big open space. And again, they're hawkers. They're not perchers. The saddlebags I have seen in several different places. The green darners, I've been fortunate to find perched a couple of times, so they were not by the pond. That one was a recent photograph. Laura Wilbanks saw one under the veranda right in the backyard. And I was coming out of the kitchen, and so we got some great pictures of it, which I shared with you tonight. And then for the very first time, I was able to get a photograph of the blue dasher, and that was at the pond. It was a male, and he was, it was exciting. I had just been finishing up work. Megan had stopped to ask a question, and I don't have my camera with me, so I had my phone, and I'm trying to take this picture and talk to Megan and not be rude to her and saying, hang on, I have this great dragonfly. Everybody who knows Marie knows she will be distracted by great plants, insects, birds, other critters. What can I say? I come by it honestly. So, and then the only other one that I showed you was the forktail, and that was obviously in the pond.
The dragonflies are there in the summer. They're very visible. Where do they go when it's not the same time of year?
So some of those that migrate, you heard what they're doing. They're heading south. Those that do not migrate will lay their eggs, and then the adults will die. And then it's the larvae that are maturing in that lovely mucky stuff at the bottom of the pond, which is an incredible environment. And so they're out there living in that muck. And in fact, the photograph of the nymph was one of the ones that when I was cleaning the pond a month ago, I accidentally cleaned out several nymphs, and so I'm now. Okay, you all know Marie. So now she's chasing after the nymphs, trying to rescue them because they'll only live in water. So one of them I put in water, and then I took out real quick and got his photograph and put him back in water. So those that do not migrate generally have fulfilled their life's destiny by propagating the species, and their day is done.
And then predators, are birds predators of dragonflies?
Birds and bats. And like I said, kestrels. We've actually had a kestrel catch one at the rancho, and I'm going, oh, no, not the dragonfly. Couldn't you have caught a grasshopper? Here I am trying to micromanage the diet of the birds of prey. And larger falcons will actually go after them as well.
Well, they're putting on a show, colorful show right now. A couple props from our volunteers. Tom says, thank you, Marie. I think he speaks for all of us. And Marcia says, I always learn from you. I never realized that dragonflies have what look like thin ladders. Thank you, and thanks to my internet making it so I can get it big on my computer.
Glad you can join us.
All right, muy apreciado. That is not in any language that we know, but we all appreciate it, Marie. Thank you so much for all the work you did to put this together and enlighten us tonight. Now we're going to hear from Carlos and Grace on the new exhibit. Carlos, would you introduce our second speaker?
Absolutely. So my name is Carlos Ortega. For those who don't know me, I'm the curator at the Rancho, and today I'm really excited to introduce you all to this year's curatorial Getty undergraduate intern, Grace Lopez. And Grace is studying history at Cal State Long Beach, and she's working towards a minor in political science. And Grace has spent the last 10 weeks in assisting the curatorial department with our daily tasks, and she has focused on the development and conceptualization of an upcoming exhibition at the library titled John Temple, Overcoming the Challenges of the California Land Act of 1851. And today she'll be giving you a brief presentation about the work that she's been doing and her research on John Temple and the process he followed to get his land acknowledged.
Hi, I'm Grace, and like Carla said, I'm going to be giving a brief presentation on the exhibit. So I'm just going to share my screen real quick. Can you guys see that? Right, so the exhibit, as Carla said, is John Temple, Overcoming the Challenges of the California Land Act of 1851. And so the purpose of this, just for those who may not know the prior knowledge, the California Land Act of 1851 required all Mexican grants to be verified, which proposed a lot of problems for those who maybe didn't have the title on them or just in general. And the John Temple appeal document that was donated to the rancho shows the process of what verifying the deed would have looked like for John Temple, challenges and all. And what this exhibit will show are the two accounts of the consequences of the California Land Act, one being John Temple and the other side being a California woman named Marie Amparo Ruiz de Burton. So, okay. So one of the slides is called The Barriers in the Land Appeal Process, and this panel is basically about the challenges that Californios would have gone through in which they probably would have gotten their land taken away. So we got language barriers, deception out of land, long-term fees, for the lawyers or daily expenses, unable to find deed validations, squatters on their land. That's a whole nother story. They had rights of other people's lands. And then the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. And yeah, so next slide. The next panel would show the diseño, which was the original drawing of what the land that was part of Rancho Los Cerritos would have looked like before John Temple had owned it. So that this photo will be displayed on it, and it'll have like a little writing about like what it's about. Next button. So the next panel towards the fireplace is about John Temple and Rafaela Cota de Temple. And this slide includes information about John Temple's life and how him and his wife, Rafaela de Cota, built their life at the Rancho Los Cerritos. Next slide. So the display case in the library talks about John Temple's side describing his troubles and ultimate success of his title. And then Maria Amparo Ruiz de Burton's side will discuss like her obtaining Rancho Jamul, her legal battles in which she kept losing but getting it back, her land. And the works that she wrote about her experience. So the one we're referring to is Squatter in the Dawn. And the next slide are the artifacts that we've decided to use. So we have Temple's branding iron, which was in his contract when he purchased Rancho Los Cerritos of what he would get. So we thought that'd be like a little fun fact to include, in which we actually found the branding iron. So that was cool. We included it in the exhibition. We're using this photo of him. We included a photo of Rancho Los Cerritos. It is a little little later than his time, but besides that, it's I think the earliest photo of it. And then a drawing of his store. Yeah. And then for Maria Amparo Ruiz de Burton's side, we're using her portrait. A landscape photo of Rancho Jamul. We're having her book displayed, Squatter in the Dawn, and then there's an excerpt from Squatter in the Dawn, basically just talking about how she feels that they've been wronged, California owners have been wronged, and the fact that she doesn't think that even Congress knew that it was going to become this big of a problem. And yeah, that's what I got.
Sorry, Grace, thank you so much for preparing that for us. It's exciting that it'll be in the Rancho's library. very shortly. Can you tell us, as you were going through this internship, what are some of your key takeaways from the summer?
Working at the rancho or the exhibit?
Oh, both.
That, everything's a process, and that even when you think you may have what you're going to go for, you may come in the next week completely scrapping it and then redoing it. But the good thing is that you just keep moving forward, because progress, even if it's a little progress, is still progress. So
Great. And how about, have you ever put together an exhibition before?
no, this would be the first time. So
What do you think are the most exciting parts of it? What really was thrilling to you?
I think probably finding the things for the comparison, for someone like Temple, who was, successful and had resources, versus someone that probably that didn't. And, the fact that Maria Amparo Ruiz de Bern was a woman, a California woman. I liked doing that comparison. I thought it was fun.
Well, that brings up two questions, the same question twice. Where was Rancho Hummel, and what can you tell us a little bit about?
It was in, I believe, San Diego, and the way she obtained it was that it was the former governor of California, Pio Pico. He had owned Rancho Hummel and he meant to sell it, or he did sell it, but when this all happened, he was told that he needed to get his title to verify it, to make sure it belonged to him in the first place, which he couldn't find. And so eventually it became public domain, in which Maria Amparo and her husband were able to obtain it, which is irony in itself. The fact that even being the governor of California couldn't save you from getting your land taken away. So that was interesting to learn about.
Right. And I know a number of our volunteers helped to transcribe the appeals document. It's in Spanish, right?
Parts of it, yeah.
And were there any quotes or things that stood out to you that you can share with us about that document, since most of us haven't read it or even seen it yet?
Yeah, so towards the beginning of the document, there's, I believe, 16 grounds of complaints that the district attorney had for John Temple, meaning all the complaints that they had of him owning Rancho Los Cerritos, but they were things that were easily discredited. So they would say like, oh, well, he's not a Mexican citizen, when in fact, they could easily look up that he was. Or there's no proof of the death of the previous owner, which sounds ridiculous in itself and was easily discredited. So that whole 16 grounds of complaints was fun to read, but it was also kind of like, you could tell they were just reaching for things to complain about.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And I believe Allison speaks for all of us when she says, really nice job, Grace. Much appreciated. Thank you for sharing that with us. We all look forward to seeing the exhibition once it's ready in the library. Next up, we have our other intern from this summer, our other Getty intern from this summer, and her supervisor, Alana, is going to introduce Sarah.
Hi, everyone. So I have had the privilege of being the supervisor for Sarah, who has been our educational intern through the Getty Miro undergraduate internship program. And she started a couple weeks later. So Grace has finished hers, but Sarah will be still our intern through next Friday, the 26th, I believe. So a big part of the internship was working with the summer camp. So helping me as the camp manager, serving as the assistant camp manager, plan, execute, and sort of debrief the summer camp process. And now we're still in the debrief, but the official camp is over. And so now using that knowledge, previous Rancho Los Cerritos history, since Sarah actually has volunteered or worked at the camp several summers, and sort of taking that and looking at future potential educational programming, helping with an upcoming History Camp America video. So lots of exciting things still in store for what is sure to be a jam-packed last couple of weeks of her internship. And I'll turn it over to her now to share her experiences so far with our summer camps.
Yes. Hello. Can everyone see the slideshow and hear me okay? Cool. Okay. So yes, I'm here to show some photos of summer camp and tell you all how it went, as well as reflect on what I've learned so far this summer. So yes, I'll just go ahead and get started. This is my 5th time doing summer camp here at the Rancho, but it is my first time being assistant camp manager, as Alana was saying. Camp was an exciting whirlwind for Alana and myself. We had a lot of twists and turns thrown at us, but that really gave us the opportunity to be even more flexible and think outside of the box. So due to construction and like a shortage of camp counselors, we were really, again, thinking outside of the box to make camp the best experience possible. And one way we did that was by taking a couple of field trips. So these are the first photos that I will show you. So the first field trip we went on was to Rancho Los Alamitos. The kids really enjoyed it. They loved looking at a different rancho, seeing the museum, and of course, like looking at their farm animals. I feel like it really enhanced like their like knowledge of the rancho because they had been able to like see how it compares to a different one and know that there are multiple. So yeah, that was a really fun day. The other field trip we went on was to the El Dorado Nature Center. Again, they loved looking at the wildlife and identifying different plants and animals that they saw. This is the group that I was walking around with, and they particularly liked making up their own squirrel calls and finding families of ducks and taking turns naming them. So yeah, that was a really fun day. I took them on a 1-mile hike around the nature center, got them nice and tired. We played some games on the field. That was really fun. Yeah, and then so obviously most of the activities though that we did were at our own rancho. So some activities that we did. So on the left you can see that we did a gold painting activity. We also did candle making. We made butter and did 19th century laundry. Some crafts that we did include collage making, impressionist art, and clay sculpting, as you can see here. And crowd favorite games such as Evolution, Red Light, Green Light, Guess the Leader. Yeah, all of those games super popular with the kids. And they were, oh, and we can also see roping here to the left, which is kind of like a part of our herding activity that we did. And yes, another fun activity that we did with the middle schoolers. So for the last week of camp, it's just middle schoolers. It's called Unplugged. And a new activity that we did was writing and filming an episode of Rancho News. This was a project that required campers to combine their creativity as well as their knowledge of the rancho in order to put together a news segment about the rancho. And it was really fun to be a part of. And we can see to the right our viewing party that we had. The kids really laughed and enjoyed watching it, thanks to Alana's brilliant editing as well. And it's going to be on the YouTube channel soon. So if you guys want to check it out, feel free to do so. But yeah, besides that, as far as what I've learned this summer, I feel like I've grew in a couple of areas. Like I said before, I've been a camp counselor, but this was definitely an adjustment as a role. I've taken on more responsibility, both like behind the scenes and like on the scenes as well. So behind the scenes, I got to learn more about like what it takes when it comes to planning, decision making, and just like prepping all the crafts that goes into everything. But also like on the scenes, I've become better at commanding attention from the campers and, you know, explaining activities in a coherent way, but also with one-on-one working with campers as well. Like, you know, in the past, just being a camp counselor, if there was a camper with like behavioral or emotional problems, it was easy just to be like call Alana over and be like, help please. But now I felt like I had a lot more confidence in dealing with the campers myself. And I felt like a lot more confident with my leadership skills at the end of camp. So yeah, it was a great learning experience overall. But yeah, the summer was very heartwarming and fun for me. And I'm very thankful for the Rancho and the Getty for giving me this experience. And like Alana was saying, in the next couple of weeks, I'll be breaking down and debriefing camp, and as well as helping film the History Camp America videos and putting together plans for inclusive, diverse, and equitable programming for the Rancho to use in their future. And yeah, I hope to see you all around as I am doing that. And please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.
Well, I do have a question. Can you tell us what the breaking news was on the edition?
I can. So the kids all like wrote their own skits. Like we kind of gave them like an idea of everything, and the kids had an idea to because we took them on a house tour. So they decided to have that there was a visitor who was on a house tour. They forgot their water bottle in the blacksmith shop, and then they wanted to use like the forge to fix their own tools, and then they started a fire at the rancho. And then the emergency responders came quickly though, and the damage was minimal, so that was good. But yeah, it was really funny to record, and they did include some knowledge about how blacksmiths use the blacksmith shop, so it was a little bit educational too.
I am sure Allison and the rest of us are breathing a sigh of relief that they put out the fire.
Yeah.
Especially since we haven't yet installed that fire suppression system. So good thing that we have capable middle schoolers.
Definitely.
Another question from Laura Breen is, have you noticed a difference in the children pre-COVID and post-COVID since you've been here for quite a few summers?
Yeah, actually I have, and Alana and I were talking about it today as we were debriefing. I do feel like maybe a little bit like maybe like coming into like social skills and like problem solving is a little bit different. Like some campers were a lot more emotional. Like I had one camper who would like cry a lot when he like lost games or when a craft wasn't going his way, which I feel like is understandable when you think about like for the past few years, like we're very formative for him, and he was probably just at home alone with his parents, and he wasn't used to like, you know, not having a lot, like he didn't have a lot of control. Whereas when you go to school, you know, you don't have a lot of control, but when you go home, like your parents are kind of just like gearing everything towards you. So I can understand how like it's a big adjustment for like such formative years to be like just be stuck inside. But yeah, I do feel like there was definitely a difference, and I was expecting to see more of a difference last year with the kids after COVID, but I do feel like I noticed one more this year, so that was interesting.
And I think we're all dying to know, what does a squirrel sound like?
Well, it sounds very squeaky, but in my opinion, but the squirrel calls that we were coming up with were just like trying to figure out what their names were. So like we were like, oh, maybe the squirrel's name is Lucas, and then like we would be like, Lucas, come here. And so like obviously that's not the best tactic to attract a squirrel, but the kids are really getting a kick out of it, so I was happy.
That's awesome. I don't think they've gone to the Nature Center before, and it's great that Rancho Los Alamitos welcomed our students there. They haven't been doing in-person field trips. I think we might have been the first for them.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing your experience. Thank you again to Grace for sharing the project that she's been working on. Just to fill in, Alana and Sarah mentioned History Camp America. That is something that we're working on behind the scenes, and we'll give you more information in quick notes as we go forward. But suffice it to say, it's an online all-day program in November that the Rancho is planning to participate in. More information coming soon, but to participate in it, we have to prepare. I'm not sure if anyone on this phone call is part of that process, but you'll see very soon who is. Okay, I have a few Rancho announcements, and then we are going to bring all of you up, and I have a question for you. Rancho announcements, things that are coming in September. Very exciting. There are 3 Saturdays in September. Well, 4 if you count the 3rd, which is the holiday weekend, but since I will be in North Carolina, I'm not counting that. Sorry, bad joke, but September 10th is going to be the Ranchos Walk. That's when about 400 people will walk from Rancho Los Alamitos in mass up to Rancho Los Cerritos, or we think it'll be about that many. It's usually around 400. People are welcome to do a 9-point-something mile version. That's all the way from Alamitos to Cerritos. You can do a 6-mile version, starting somewhere along the way, a 3-mile version, or you can just show up at our site and enjoy the celebration. At the end of it, you can even volunteer if you'd like. I know a number of you have said you'll be station docents that day, which is fantastic. A number of you have said that you will be the welcoming crew who registers people as they come on site or checks off the box. That's fantastic. We do still have volunteer opportunities available for that day for anyone who would like to join us. So that's Saturday, September 10th. Walk it or just come help or enjoy the show at the Rancho. Saturday, here's a fun thing. Let me share it with you. If you do come that day, You will get the Rancho walk. If you participate in the walk, you'll get the Rancho walk neckerchief. What's it called? A bandana. And so that is the 4th annual Rancho walk bandana. The following Saturday, the 17th, for those who like beer, is not our event, but an event producer hosts. We are the host of the Long Beach Craft Beer Fest every September, and this year it'll be on Saturday, September 17th. That event always sells out, so you'll be sure to get tickets if that's of interest to you. The following Saturday, Allison already mentioned, and that is the Rancho's big fundraiser of the year, the RLC Gala. And we hope that if you'd like to join us that night, you'll make plans to buy tickets for that. That'll bring us to October, and October 1st, we're gonna do, not technically September, but October 1st, we are gonna have a volunteer open house. So if you have friends or family, they can start volunteering at any time, but we will do the dog and pony show, as I like to call it, on Saturday, October 1st. That is what we have going on at the Rancho. Alana, if you can help me by changing everyone's status from attendee to panelist, you can think about the question before I do that, and that is, what field trip did you go on this summer, or what field trip would you like to go on this fall if you haven't had a chance to get out? Bear with us as we finish promoting as many people. That's the term that Zoom uses, promoting to panelists or changing your status. So you may have technology that doesn't allow for it, but we're certainly hoping that if you have technology that allows for it, that we can promote you. If not, you can always add in the chat what your field trip is. Since it was my question, I'll go first. I had an incredible experience out in Idaho this summer. I went with my sister river rafting down the middle fork of the Salmon River. I didn't even know it was a thing, but my sister found this opportunity. We flew into Boise, and that's what I want to tell you about, because I went to the Basque History Museum. In fact, I took pictures of songs that I think were in the Basque language and sent them to Carlos and made connections there, but they have an incredible resource there. I bought a book that is called When the Basques Ruled California, and it's making the argument that the Spanish who came here were actually mostly from the Basque region. Who knew? Unfortunately, it wasn't available in a Kindle, so I'm reading it really slowly because I'm sort of maladept these days at turning pages. All right, so that was my field trip to the Basque History Museum and eating out at an incredibly delicious Basque dinner. Deirdre, I would love to call on you and find out what your field trip is that you went on or that you would like to go on.
Okay, sorry. So this is a field trip. What are you talking about? What we're doing this summer or what?
Yeah, just a fun experience that you've had, or that one that you're planning that you would like to have.
Okay. Let's see. That I've had, okay. Well, I don't know what to say. I just went to San Diego. How's that? No time or money, but I have fortunately some friends stayed in Del Mar and visited in Oceanside, San Diego, La Jolla. Don't have to spend a lot of time and money to have fun.
You don't. You can go local or go midway like you did. That's awesome. Deirdre, you get a call on somebody else. So whose ever name you see on the screen, please call on
Okay,
them.
who's Jacqueline? Her video's not on. All right.
Jacqueline, you're on mute. Okay.
Yes, I just figured that out. It's been a while since I've been on Zoom myself. Well, I was thinking about the field trips, but I'm going to tell about the trip that I had an opportunity to go in the 1st of July. Fortunately, I was able to go back to Europe and spent 10 days in France. Part of that was seeing all of Paris again. One day was 22,000 steps of walking, which I don't think I've ever done. And then we had an opportunity to be on the Loire Canal for a period of time. So, and everyone came home and no one had COVID. So it's exciting that we can start traveling again. So I'm going to call on Tom. I'm sure he's here.
Yep, I'm here. Again, the only thing I can think of would be a cruise. Went up for a quick cruise up to Vancouver, but the highlight was in San Francisco. We had probably 8 hours of just walking and having a good time, and up and down the hills, and it totaled out to be 21 miles that I covered that day. Just having a wonderful time, beautiful weather, everything looked great, and again, no COVID, which was great, and it was a great time. So let's see, I think I'm going to hand this off to Marcia.
Well, 90% of my summer was sitting on my swing in the backyard because I wasn't allowed to go places. But I did go to the rancho finally for about less than 2 hours, but that was my favorite. But if I were going to pick a thing in the future, there's millions of them I'd still want to go to. But I took out my Model T yesterday and actually pushed it down the driveway and started it, so it still works. So that's my goal, is to get to drive the Model T at least around the block. And picking, let's see who I'm picking. Oh, Carlos, I still have a book and shoes for you that I've been by my front door forever that I need to give you. So I'll pick you now.
All right. Well, thanks. I look forward to the book. I haven't been anywhere, but if I could go and escape somewhere, it would be Kings Canyon, the national park, which is to me one of the hidden gems that we have. They usually have the Kings River that is over there. They do cleanups, and they do about 6 of them every year. And campers get together, and they clean the whole river, and you camp with them for a couple of nights. And that's something that I have never done, but I follow them on Facebook. And if I could, I would love to go in October. That's it. I would like now to ask Laura, tell us, what have you done or would like to do?
Hi, the only thing I could think of, I go to Santa Barbara frequently because my daughter lives there, but this summer I went to, they have a natural history museum, and they have also, they had one of those butterfly displays there, which when I go to South Coast Botanic Garden, I've always been a little leery about going in there with the butterflies, but I went to the one in Santa Barbara, and it was actually very, very nice. It was kind of interesting to see the butterflies, and you walk from station to station, and I thought it was pretty cool. And who could I call next? Let's see, how about Linda?
Linda, are you able to unmute?
Who did you call on?
You might have to type it into the chat. Oh, there she is. Great. Hi, Linda.
Hi. I'm looking forward to a trip at the end of September with my daughter and son-in-law to Niagara Falls. We're going to fly into Toronto, go see both sides of the falls, and then take the historic, either it's Highway 20 or 24 instead of the freeway, And we've picked out points of interest such as the Women's Suffrage Museum, the home of Katie Stanton, and they, of course, are hot to go to the Baseball Hall of Fame, and so we'll go to Cooperstown and whatever else we find along the way. I just found out that there are the Finger Lakes of New York, so we're going to see those also. I think we've planned more than we can possibly do in the time we have, but I'm looking forward to it. And let's see, I don't know. Oh, how about Joyce and Martin?
They were here. Are they still here?
I don't know. They were here earlier.
We have Ina and Lois and Edith, Sarah, Grace, and Marie, I think. Do you want to pick someone else?
Oh, sure, Ina.
I'm sorry, and Ina. That was my fault.
Ina.
Hi, I had a really neat experience in Santa Monica, and my husband and I took public transportation all the way, the whole trip. We didn't have a car at all. And one of the things we did, we took the train and we took the buses. We took the bus back to the Academy of Motion Pictures Museum, and it was spectacular. We spent 5 hours there. I'm not a huge movie person, but I could become one. It was just, if you have the opportunity, it's beautifully laid out. It's just wonderful, and you just learn so much. It was just a great experience. I'm happy I got to do it. I have to pick someone now, huh? Grace, how about you?
Hi. During the summer, or I guess this span of the internship, I went to they do a horror Comic-Con in Long Beach, Midsummer Scream. And so I went to that, and it was really cool and spooky, and yeah.
You get a call on someone too, Grace.
Right, I forgot. Hi, Edith. You want to go next?
Unmute. That's how I do it, unmute. Okay, so I haven't taken any trips. I thought I was going to Hawaii for 3 weeks, but that didn't pan out. So to house sit and animal sit. But I've gone to all the concerts in the park at Los Cerritos Park with the municipal band. I think it's their, I don't know, 117th year or something that we've had a municipal band. And then I went to the neighborhood association, puts on 2 more, and I've gone to all the concerts in the parking lot. So, you know, you take a chair and you take your food, and it's an outing. I wouldn't, it's maybe not as good as a field trip, but so that's what I've done, and that I enjoyed, and you're outside and everything. So I'm going to choose Marie Barnidge.
I haven't gone much of anywhere. Actually, going to Long Beach sort of feels like a field trip to me most days. You know, my commute probably totals up to what most people spend on some of their vacations. But I am toying with the concept of heading to the desert this fall, as I am looking to see some of the fall migration of the bird species and anything else that happens to look exciting or marvelous to me. Much like Deidre was saying, I'm looking to see where I can sort of do this economically. So it isn't hard and fast yet, and I haven't quite figured out when, but I'm toying with that concept. Lois, how about you?
Lois, are you able to unmute? All right, if she pops on, that'll be awesome. Otherwise, I think the last person we haven't heard from yet is Sarah.
Yes, I also haven't gone on any field trips this summer yet. However, me and my mom are toying with the idea of going to San Francisco and Seattle. So going up north, which would be really fun because I went last summer with my friends and I really loved it. And my mom has never been to Seattle, so I wanted to like show her it because I really loved it. I could see myself like living there temporarily for a little bit. So yeah, I would like to go there and see some more sights. But yeah.
Do the underground tour.
Yeah.
It's fun in Seattle. And it looks like Lois has now unmuted. Can you tell us?
Hi, Phil's gonna talk. I have to go take something out of the oven real quick.
Don't burn dinner.
Yeah, we went on a few trips, one of which was Santa Barbara. And we went out on a whale watching boat out of Santa Barbara. And I've done a lot of that because I volunteered at the Aquarium of the Pacific. But this one was really neat because there was a humpback whale female with its calf and the escort that always goes along with them. And for those of you that don't know, humpbacks are one of the only animals that will go out of their way to help another animal. So it was really nice. We saw about 5 of them and it was really nice. And the calf was, if you can call, the calf a calf, it's so big. But we did that. And then we did one also up to Lompoc, Return to Freedom.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Return to
Return to
Freedom.
Freedom, which is Mustangs.
Horse sanctuary.
Horse sanctuary. That was really nice. So we did a few of those trips.
Tell them you get a tour. Oh, that's good.
You get a tour of the 300 acres of the rancho there and all the Mustangs that are there.
Fascinating. You guys are always blowing me away. So many different ideas and experiences and everyone's contributions tonight. Thank you. Joy, are you able to unmute or no? It looks like they're not. All right, thank you all for being here tonight. Let me just quickly review what you can come do at the Rancho in addition to all of those wonderful things I talked about in September. We have gardening every Tuesday morning, and that is people who like to get grubby for the good of the Rancho. Marie will put you to work. Garden crafts are generally on the first Friday of the month, although sometimes she adds special things, so check quick notes. But if you're crafty or want to become crafty, feel free to register for garden crafts. Public hours volunteers, and a special shout out to anyone who can help this Saturday or Sunday when we are woefully low on volunteers. But anytime, we'd love to have your help. Wednesday through Sunday, 1 to 5, extended hours on Saturday morning. We have storytime readers on Tuesday mornings, bilingual storytime readers on Saturday mornings. And next month, our volunteer gathering will be in person at the Rancho. You are not going to want to miss that, but I'm not going to steal the thunder because I'm going to tell you all about it in quick notes. Be sure to check the September quick notes, but it'll be on Tuesday, September 20th, 5:30 to 7. All right, thanks for everyone for joining us tonight. Thanks for everyone who watched the recording later. I did send an email to Laura with everyone who logged on today, but if you logged on YouTube, or watch this recording later, please log your hours. It counts as volunteering. All right, thanks to our presenters.
Can I ask a quick question?
Oh, please, yes.
I'm sorry, the walk 9 mile event, September, is it on the website?
Oh, thank you. I did check our website and it looks like September has not been posted yet, but there is, the city of Long Beach is actually who you register through. So that's how you would register for the walk if you want to do it. And it's free. I should have mentioned that up front.
Yes, but I was wondering because when I volunteered last month, I was telling all the guests about it and to go to our website. Then I found out it wasn't there. And yes, I know Sustainability Office is sponsoring it, but how do people who know us know to go there to
We'll
find
get
it.
it on. Thank you, Deirdre. I just noticed that tonight myself. I appreciate that comment, and we will get it on. City of Long Beach is just posting it themselves, but thank you, and we need all our September events. I wholeheartedly agree. All right, thank you, Sarah, for your presentation tonight. Thank you, Marie, for your presentation tonight. Thank you, Carlos, for Grace's presentation tonight. Grace is actually already done with her internship last Friday, and she came back tonight anyway to share that information with all of you. Sarah, we still have around for this week and next week. Good night, everyone.
Good night.